Chapter 2. Mr. Wollstone was a native of Hasbury and born of a responsible family which for the last two or three generations had been reaching into a genetic and property. He had received a good education but on succeeding early in life to a small independence and became disposed of any of the more homely pursuits in which his brothers and engaged and had sophisticated and active cheerfully mind and socially tempered by entering into the metals of country then into bodies. Captain Weston was a genetic favorite, and when the change of his material life and had inducted him to Mr. Churchill of a great Yorkshire family, and Miss Churchill fell in love too with nobody was surprised to expect her brothers and his wife, who had never seen in had who were full of pride and independence, which the connection will would unfitted. Mr. Cheerfully, however, being of age and with the full command of her unit, thought her fortune born on proportion to the family as it was not to be disputed from the marriage, and it took place to the infinity of mortification of Mr. and Mr. Churchill, who threw her off with the due decorum. It was an unsuitable connection and did not produce much happiness. Mr. Weston ought to have found more in it, for she had a husband whose burn hot and sweet temper made him think every things due to her in return to the great goodness of being in love with him. But thought she had no one sort of spirit, she had not the best. She had resolution enough to pursue her own will in spite of her brothers, but not enough the returns for unreasonable regret at the brothers' unreasonable urge nor from missing the luxury of her farmer's home. They lived beyond their income, but still it was nothing in comparison of economies. She did not increase to love her husband, but she wanted to distance once to be the wife of Constance Stone and Mr. Churchill of Incomes. Captain Winston, who had been contested spectacle by the Churchills as making such an amazing bird match, are proved to have much the worst of began. For when his wife died after a 3 years marriage, he was rather a proper poor man than at first, and with a child to maintain. From the express of the child outward, he soon as relied to brothers to had with the additional softening camps of learning lessons of his brothers been the means of a sort of recollection, and Mr. and Mrs. Churchill, having no children of her own, nor any other young creature of equal candor to care for, opted to take the whole change of the latter's funk soon after his decease. Some please and some resilience that the window fathers may be supposed to have felt, but as they were overcome by the condition, the child wood was given up to the care and the wealth of Churchill, and had only his one comfort to seek and his one situation to improve, and as he could. A complete change of left life became desirable. He quieted the metal and engaged in train, having brothers already suitable in a good way in London, which afforded him a favorable opening. It was a commerce which brought just employment in of. He had still a small house in the Highbury where most of his insults were spent, and between us usefully a comparison and the pleasures of society. The next 16 and 20 years of the life passed cheerfully away. He had by that time realized an easy competence enough to secure the purchase of a little estate adjoining Salisbury, which he had always longed for, enough to marry a woman as brutalist as Mr. Thus, and had to live according to the wish of his own family and social position. It was no sometimes since Mr. Thus had been influenced his summits. But as it was not the emphatic influence of youth or young youth, it had not shaken his determination of never selecting till he could purchase Redless, and the sale of Redless was long looked forward to. But he had gone steadily on with his object in view till they were accomplished. He had met this furniture, but his house, and often his wife, and was beginning a new period of extents with every possibility of great happiness than in any yeast past thought. He had never been an unhappier man. His own tempers had scored him from that even in his first marriage, but his second must say him more delightful, well, young and truth embellished woman could be, and must given him to the pleasant proof of his being a great adult, better to choose than to be changed chosen to next gratitude than feel it. He had only himself to please in the choose. His fortune was his own for as to Frank. It was more than being critical brought up as his uncle's. Here it had become ordered and deposition as to have issued that name of Churchill on coming of age. It was most unlikely therefore that a person of it. The aunt was a capricious woman and governed her husband internally, but it was in Mr. Weston's nature of imagining that any caprice could be strong enough of affect on one so dear. And as Sid believed so did Ravensbury dears. He was saw his son very every years in London, and was proud of his, and his found reported of his as a very fine young man had made Asbury feel a sort of pride in him too. He was looked on as sufficiently belonging to the place of to make his matters, and proposed perfect as a kind of common nurse. Mr. Frank Churchill was one of the brightest Hasbury, and lived curiosity to see him provide. Third, the compliment was so little returned that he had never been there in his life. His coming to West, his father had been often talking it of but never achieved. Now, upon his father's marriage, it was very generally proposed as a most proper attention that the wish should take place. There was not a distant voice on the subject either. So, when Mr. Prairie drank tea with Mr. and Mrs. Bates are when Mr.'s and Mrs. Bates returns the west. No, was the time for Mr. Frank Churchill to may came among them, and the hoped strength when it was understood that he had written to his new mothers on the occasion. For a few days every morning, West in Highbury included some meditation of the house and some later Mr. Boston had revised. I supposed you have heard of the handsome letters Mr. Frank Churchill has written to Mr. Weston. I understand it was a very handsome letter indeed. Mr. Woodhouse told me of it. Mr. Woodhouse saw the little and he says he never such as a handsome little in his life. It was indeed a highly prized letter. Mr. Weston had of course formed a very favorable ideas of the young man, and such as pleasing attention was an invariable proof of his great and sense and a most welcome addition to every source and every experience of congratulation which her marriage and already squared. She felt herself a most fortunate woman, and he had lived long enough to know how fortunate she might well be thoughts, where the only regret was for a parental expectation from friends whose wonderships from his had never cooled, and who could ill bear to part with her. She knew that at times such must be misused, and could not think without pain of Emma losing a single pleasure or suffering or hours immune from the bent of her compulsiveness, but dear Emma was of no fables character. She was more equal to her situation than most girls who had been and seen and energy and spirit the night to be hoped where beer he well and happily thoughts its little difficulties and provocation. And then there was such as comfort in the very easy distance of Redless from Hatfield, so contented for his solitary family walking, and in Mr. Weston's disposition and cultivants, which would make the approaching season on her Hind dance to their spending half the evenings in the fake togethers. Her situation was altogether the subject of our gratitude to Mr. Weston and of mountains only a tour of regret, and her certification, her more than certification, her chiefly enjoyment was so just and appropriate that Emma will, as she knew her father, was sometimes taken by surprise at his blessing still able to pretty poor Mrs. Doyle when they left her of redless in the great centers of every domestic comfort as saw her go away in the evening, attended by her pleasant husband to a cherishing of her when. But never did she good without Mr. Westhouse giving a gentle sings and saying, "Ah, poor Miss Tyles, she was to be a very girl to say." There was no recovering Mrs. Tyles, nor which likelihood of kissing to pride her. But a few waking brought some always station to Mr. Woodhouse, the accomplishment of his Nasbury were over. He was no longer touched by it being wished joy of sorrowfully an event, and the vending cakes which had been a great distress to him was all eat up. Is one such stomach could bear nothing's rich, and he could never believe the other people to be different for himself. What was unwholesome to him to regret as unfit for any body, and he had therefore earnestly tried to dissuade them from having any vending cake at all. And when the province and entirely tried to provide anybody inting it, he had been at the pen of counseling Mr. Perry, the apothecary, on the subject. Mr. Perry was an intelligent, gentleman-like man whose frequent visits were one of the comfort of Mr. Woodhouse lived life, and won upon being applied to we could not but acknowledge thoughts it seemed rather against the base of inclination that vending cakes might greatly disagree with many, perhaps with most people, unless taken moderately with such as an option for information of his own. Mr. Woodhouse opted influence various visitors of her newly married pairs, but still the cake was eaten, and there was no rest for his beloved neighbors till it was all gone. There was a strong numerous iceberg of all the right pairs being seen with a silence of Mr. Weston vending cakes in the hands. But Mr. Woodhouse would never believed it.